Hey y'all, welcome to Cat Custom Tour. Today, I'm going to start building a 10 bolt in my C10 to try to make it survive behind big block power. So I got my old C10 sitting on the lift, and I'm doing a bunch of work to the truck to make it more of a street strip style truck. And one of the major upgrades I'm doing to the truck is I'm building the rear axle to make it better suited to handle the abuse. So this truck's a 74 Chevrolet C10, which is about 4,000 pounds, and it has a big block, and we're putting a trans brake in the truck, as well as running sticky drag radials. I got cow tracks. I'm racing it on the drag strip, as well as doing excited starts on the highway and stuff like that. So you really gotta beef up your rear axle to be able to handle that kind of abuse. The 8.5 10 bolt that's in this truck is really not a very strong axle. It's a half-ton axle used from the early 80s all the way up till they're using variants of the 10 bolt through today. So if you're going to try to make it handle this kind of abuse, you've got to do some upgrades. Where I'm at as far as the power and the weight and that stuff, it's kind of pushing the envelope of what this axle can handle. But when you're on a limited time and budget like I am, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do and just swing for the fences. So the parts that I have to install in this axle to try to make sure it's going to survive the abuse is I have heavy duty Moser axle shafts, as well as C-clip eliminators, and I have a fresh ring and pinion gear and a crush sleeve eliminator. And I'm going to take y'all to the workbench and show you all of those various parts that I'm going to use to try to beef this axle up with, as well as I'm going to lay the tools out that y'all are going to need to build this axle. Setting up a rear axle requires some specialty tools, as well as a little bit of understanding of how all the parts and pieces work together, so that you can understand how each measurement works together to try to ensure that it has a good pattern. So I'm going to show you all the specialty tools that you're going to need, and then I'm going to start building the axle and show y'all step by step as I build the axle all the way from tear down till it's complete. So I'm going to take y'all to the workbench, I'm going to show you all the parts, and then we'll start building the axle. Alright y'all, well here's all the parts I'm going to use to build the rear axle on my truck. I have Moser's heavy duty axle shafts, as well as Moser's C-clip eliminator kit already installed. I have Motive Gear's 4:10 axle ratio. I have a 1350 series yoke with a crush sleeve eliminator kit. I have all the bearings and seals to rebuild the rear axle. And also something I didn't talk about, I have Competition Engineering's coilover style upper and lower shock mounts. I'm going to be changing the rear shock location on the truck. I'm going from the staggered shocks on the truck to inboarding the shocks and standing them straight up. Because it's a street strip style truck, you really need some adjustability in the shocks to kind of control the weight transfer and moving on the truck. So with the heavier duty shafts and all the better internal parts on the rear axle, as well as going from a 308 axle ratio all the way to a 411, and having the adjustability in the rear shocks, it's really going to make this truck leave out of the hole a lot better. Should make it a whole lot of fun to drive. I can't wait to see what this truck's going to do. So I'm going to get all this stuff off the table. I'm going to show y'all all of the specialty tools next, and then it's on to start building the axle. Well, now that I showed you all the parts that I'm going to use to build my rear axle, now I'm going to show you the specialty tools that I want to use to set my ring and pinion gear up. And this is the very basics of what you're going to need to set a ring and pinion up. So I'm going to go through and show you the basics of what each one of these tools does. That way, if you have these tools, or if you have access to these tools, then you'll be able to build the axle by yourself in your own shop, instead of having to send it out somewhere and let somebody else build it for you. So I'm going to show you what each one of these tools does, and then it's time to get started on the rear axle. Now first up, I have a 1/2-inch drive foot-pound torque wrench. It's just a click style torque wrench, and it's used to torque your ring gear bolts as well as your carrier bolts and stuff. So it's just a basic old 1/2-inch drive torque wrench. And the next tool I have is a set of calipers, and I have a set of digital calipers, and this is used to check your shim thickness. And on a 10 bolt axle like this, it uses shims to move everything around. So having a good set of calipers will allow you to properly measure the shim thickness, so you can add shims on one side, remove shims on the other side, so you can move everything around and not have to just guess at the thickness on it. So having a good set of calipers really is a good help. And the next tool I have is a 3/8 drive, inch-pound, dial-type torque wrench, and this is used to measure pinion bearing preload. And I'll show you how to use this in the video where I show you about a crush sleeve eliminator. This is a really nice tool to have. And the last tool I have sitting here is a dial indicator, and it's used to measure your ring gear backlash. So now that you've seen all these specialty tools, and I showed you the parts earlier, now it's time to dive back under the truck, start tearing the rear axle apart. And I'm going to show you step by step how each one of these tools work to install all the parts so that you can have a properly set up rear axle so you can keep your project rolling. So follow me under the truck. Yum. Don't look too bad. So now that I got the rear cover pulled off this axle, you can tell that I have a lunchbox style locker already installed. And this is a Spartan brand lunchbox style locker. This truck originally came with a 12 bolt, but when I killed the 12 bolt, I swapped in this 10 bolt and I went ahead and put a locker in it because I knew what I was going to be doing with the truck. And it's held up so far, but after I get the gears put in and everything, we'll see just how well a lunchbox style locker with the factory open carrier setup works on a truck like this. So I'm about to start breaking everything down and get ready to swap in all the upgraded parts on it. So I'm about to get started right now as soon as all the fluid drains out of it. So as the fluid continues to drain out of this axle, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up because I'm going to break this build down into several different videos. Everything from setting up the ring and pinion gear, to installing the C-clip eliminators and shafts, to setting the pinion bearing preload and what a crush sleeve eliminator kit actually does. So it'll be easier for y'all to follow along if y'all are trying to build an axle like this. So for those of y'all that might be building an axle right now, or maybe thinking about building an axle in the future, I hope this video is helpful to show you all the parts and the pieces that I'm going to be using to build my axle, as well as showing y'all the specialty tools that you're going to need if you want to try to tackle building a ring and pinion gear and setting it up properly. So I hope y'all stay tuned and watch the next set of videos that I'm going to be putting out as soon as I get this build done. So like and subscribe at the bottom of the page, and be sure to stay tuned so that y'all can keep y'all's projects on the road.